Thanks for checking out Wayne.com for the first edition of Inside the Zone this hockey season. As you can tell to my left, doesn't look exactly like Blake Sebring. A little bit different.
A little bit.
A little more hair. No offense, Blake. I know Blake will enjoy that. Shane Albahrani, voice of the Komets. And before we get started, things are a little bit different this season. We're going to have you on most weeks. We're going to rotate some players, some coaches in, so get a little feel of everybody's view on the team from the voice of the Komets down to the players.
Variety's good.
Yes, it's the spice of life, they tell me. So first off, before we get started, just tell me a little bit about you, because you're a local guy, you're a Northrop grad.
Yeah.
This is kind of, in a way, a dream job for you.
It is the dream job. It's not in a way. It is the dream job. It's something that I've wanted to do since I was 9 years old when I first really started to listen to Bob Chase. Bob took me under his wing decades ago, and I was very happy that he chose me to be the one to sit in his chair.
What is it like to be in the chair? Because you're talking about a guy who's won like the Lester Patrick Award, which is essentially is like a lifetime achievement award for hockey. I mean, the voice of the Komets. If there's a Mount Rushmore of sports in Fort Wayne, his face is probably on it.
Oh yeah. It's been a thrill, and like I said, Bob was always very kind to me and always very welcoming. So he trained me well. I mean, to put somebody else in those shoes who wasn't from Fort Wayne or not familiar with Bob, it would have been incredibly unfair. So Bob prepared me. He knew what it was going to be like for me to take over, so he prepared me well for it.
So preparing for this season, what was it like? Because this year has been a little bit, this past week was great hockey, but it's been a little bit up and down, and there's a lot of parity really in this division, so you don't really know who's going to come out victorious every night. I mean, it really is a game-by-game scenario each week. Yeah,
the schedule makers have been, I don't know if the players love it or hate it, because they have scheduled nothing but pretty much inside the division the first month or the first half of the season, which is good and bad in a sense, because you got the teams beating up on each other, but now you're getting the month of January where the Komets play every game within the division with the exception of one, which means that is a lot of points out there. So yeah, it's hit or miss, but I think at the end of this month they're going to be pretty happy that they played a lot within the Central Division.
Yeah, 3 games last week against the Central Division. What's your takeaway? Well, 4 games technically if you count the Brampton game on New Year's Eve, but 3 games on the weekend. They win all 3 of those, so as 2019, as we flip the page, they're undefeated here in the new year. What's your biggest takeaway from those 3 victories? You're talking about at the Fuel, at Cincinnati, then back home against the Fuel.
Well, they got a bit of a lashing in public from President Michael Franke, and Michael doesn't. He isn't vocal like that very often, and when he does, the guys are going to pay attention, and I think they did respond to that. But I'm starting to see this team really come together. There was a lot of changes there in the first couple months of the season. You start off 1-5. You're going to kind of pay for that 1-5 start for a long time, and that's what they've been doing. They had to go on a 5-game winning streak just to get back to 500. But I'm starting to see the changes starting to really come to fruition. You saw more crisp passes. You saw more guys on the same page, and that is the big thing. Guys are finally starting to find each other, and they're all starting to buy into the system as well. Because Gary's system, it works, but guys have got to buy into it. And when you're rotating the lineup so much, we have the first 2 months of the season. It took a little bit of time, but now I'm starting to see guys understand the system.
Komets have another big 3-game weekend. We'll talk about those games in a second, but I want to talk about a little of the news of the day, if you will. Justin Hodgman named an ECHL All-Star. That game is going to be just over in Toledo on January the 21st. What is it? Haji obviously was injured last year. Concussion, a knee, or was it a shoulder? Shoulder. Aside from just being healthy, what have you noticed from him this year that's allowed him to slide in there? And right now, he's second in the ECHL in assists.
Well, it's his attitude. He came in, wanting to resurrect his career. He knew last year was a disappointment, coming back and playing in Fort Wayne. He wanted a good showing, and unfortunately, injuries happen. So, no, it's sometimes injuries, when your mental attitude is there, it's even going to help with the injuries. And, when Justin Hodgman is healthy, he's going to be in the conversation for MVP of any league he's playing in. But, going throughout his career, he's never never really had an injury-free season. So I think that was top of mind, taking care of his body and making sure that those little nagging injuries don't pop up. And he has been just a delight, just all the way around this season.
I think if you're on his line, you have to appreciate what he does. He makes the guys better, and the guys make him better. It's like a real symbiotic relationship out there.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where, I'm not going to play down to you. You're going to have to skate with me. And that's what has guys stepping up on his level. And, bringing in somebody like a Brady Shaw, I mean, who's on that level, has been just a fantastic addition.
Well, bringing in another guy, Marco Wasat, back from the AHL Chicago Wolves. You never know how long guys are going to be here, especially on that talent level, but obviously a big boost when they are. What does it mean to have Marco back in the fold, and how do they get him kind of hit the ice running now that he's back?
Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword there, because you like to have Marco Waugh back in the lineup because you know what he can do, but he's been out of the lineup for a month, so now you've got to work him back in right when this team is starting to gel. So how do you do that? Gary Graham has talked to Marco last week on Saturday night. He was the 10th forward, and Marco was totally fine with that, just getting him worked into the lineup. So you expect big things from Marco Waugh, but he is one of those guys where he can go up to the AHL at any moment. So it's one of those things where you don't want to count on him being there every game, but when he's there, you want to take advantage of his talents.
Corresponding move with Marco coming back. Jordan Sims retroactively placed on the 21-day IR. Obviously, there was a lot of excitement when he came because of the connection to Al Sims, and we've seen him in a Cyclones jersey. We've seen him in different jerseys before. How is he holding up, and what can we expect from Jordan in the future? Because, like I said, when you saw that announced, it was like, ooh, cool. Jordan, any Komets fan would be excited about that.
Yeah, and Simmer, he's a gamer. He certainly knows the Fort Wayne market, and he brings another good guy on the faceoffs. And I think that's what Gary Graham really brought him in for, because we were struggling on the faceoffs. So Jordan Sims, I expect him to be a big guy taking those draws. So, and that's going to be his main thing.
His forte. Yeah. Scoring has been a bit of an issue offensively for the Komets this season. You take a look at last year, 290 goals. They're averaging a little over 4 goals a game. You're talking about those 290 goals, best in the ECHL, number 1. And this year, right now, I believe they're up to 21st in goals scored, just a little bit over 3 a game. And it's like a full goal per game difference this year. But the record isn't too bad. I mean, they're 19-14-0-1. What is it different about this offense that has not allowed them to be as prolific as we saw?
Well, it's at the blue line. It's not the forwards. I think you can make the argument that this group of forwards is actually more talented than what the team had last year. But it's the production from the blue line. There's no Bobby Shea back there. There's no Ryan Culkin. There's no Dan Maggio. All those guys had pretty good numbers last year. Ryan Lowney and Jason Binkley, they've stepped up and tried to take those roles, but they're still developing that part of their game. So it's the offense coming from the blue line is really been the big difference. And guys being able to start plays from their own end, coming up through the neutral zone, a good puck carrier. But that's where Ryan Lowney and Jason Binkley, they're already putting up good numbers, and you've already seen that in the past couple of weeks that they are starting to help up.
Yeah, a couple of forwards, though, we didn't know much about coming into the season, but have been very good. 30 goals between the two, JC and Jake Kamras. Pronounce JC's name for me, because I've heard it pronounced, not by you, but by a lot of different people, a lot of different ways. I pronounce it a lot of different ways on the air.
Kind of like my name. My name is pronounced in an awful lot of different ways. But JC, he doesn't mind. Campagna. It's I guess whatever kind of rolls off your tongue.
I want to say Campagna.
Yeah.
But I know it's wrong, but when it comes out, I'm like lasagna Campagna. When I look at it. It's just... But he's been really good, and Jake had a big weekend this past weekend as well.
Yeah, Jake Kamras, you don't see very often. You trade a veteran in this league for a rookie, and that's what we did, and it turned out very well, because Jake Kamras has been quite the find. Even JC Campagna, here's a guy who's been a journeyman. He's been on 3-4 teams in 1 year in his career, but now it seems like he's finally settled in and he's found a home, and that's what it happens a lot here in Fort Wayne. A lot of players who've been on a lot of teams, they come here and they get settled in. The fans treat them so well, the organization treats them so well, and they get comfortable, and that results on the ice.
We were talking about the offense not being as proficient. One of the things that the Komets have been really good at, and been now top 5 in the ECHL, penalty kill. 15-16 on the penalty kill this past weekend. What do you see from this penalty kill? That's 5th in the ECHL overall. What is it about this special teams unit that's
Oh,
good
it's
on
just
the PK?
they're aggressive. They're not. They go out there and they challenge the puck. Especially they did that in Cincinnati, which was really got them frustrated. So they're pretty fearless out there. But flip of the coin, the power play, not so much right now. So that's one thing that's got to improve.
Speaking of Cincinnati, I had this guy's name written down because I wanted to talk about him. Taylor Kronk. What was the deal, man? He threw down 3 seconds into that Cincinnati game. He was, from what I understand, the team MVP after the win Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, he got hammered, but he dished out a pretty sweet assist early in that one. How could a guy like Taylor Kronk be an MVP type guy for the week? Like, if you had to put an MVP on the weekend, it might be Taylor Kronk.
Yeah. I mean, because he does those things. He took that hit at the blue line, came up, got stitches, was bleeding, and he got the assist. And he came right back into the game. Taylor Kronk is the purest throwback hockey player that I've seen in a long time. And guys respond to that because when you see a guy out there bleeding, blocking shots, taking hits, dropping gloves, that's going to fire you up as well. So, no, Taylor Kronk, he's one of those guys kind of leading the charge. He's kind of a quiet guy. He's not really that much of a vocal, but you know what? He's pretty loud on the ice.
He certainly is. And this week's games, let's get into that real quick as we wrap things up. Friday at Indy, Saturday home against Utah, a team that's playing really good hockey. Yeah. And then Kalamazoo is at the Komets on Sunday at 5 o'clock. What are some of the big keys this weekend as they head into 3 games, especially against a team like Utah on Saturday that they don't see with that much frequency?
Yeah, that's the difficult when you start getting into the teams from other divisions. You don't see them very often or none at all in this case, so they're sometimes kind of hard to prepare for, but it's nice you get them on home ice. You're going to be home for 2 games. But again, we got all these games in the division this month, and that is just huge. So, Utah, it's going to be a tough contest, and it's good because you're bringing in a pretty good team. So it's going to be a really good test.
All right, appreciate it, Shane.
No problem.
1 week down. Hopefully, we'll be talking to you all the way through the month of May, as this Comet season could be a very interesting one, no doubt about it.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, we'll see you next week right here on Inside the Zone.